Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome again to another installment of ISV Connect Live. It's great to be back. We took a few week hiatus, partly because I've been on holiday, been enjoying the holidays. It was Thanksgiving in the US, but it's great to be back. Have a great speaker in store for you, Elliot from Backbase. But before we start with the dialogue and introduce him, a couple of key ground rules. One would be, again, as you go through this, we'd love to hear where you're watching from. So as the ticker symbol you see going down below, if you just want to type in the window where you're watching from, we'd love to hear where you're watching from. Elliot's actually currently doing this from Australia. I'm based in Seattle. But if you're doing this from anywhere around the world, we'd love to kind of see where you're watching from and comment. The other is that if you have any questions throughout the event, or let's say there's something that resonates with you in the dialogue that Elliot and I are having, utilize one of the icons below, support, like, etc. And it gives us an opportunity to understand, A, is the content resonating? But also, if you have a question, you could always reach out to us offline via LinkedIn, but you could also type in the question in real time in the window, and we can respond to it in kind. So that being said, Elliot, gosh, thank you so much for allocating time. I know you're super busy in a global role, but welcome to the ISV Connect Live show. Let's just kick off and say, hey, what do you do? What's your role specifically leading a global financial services organization? What's your role at Backbase? And then what I ask all my guests, what's one thing not on your LinkedIn profile that you're open to sharing?
Thanks, Brian. Pleasure to be here and great to be in this presentation with the folks from Microsoft who we work very closely together with. So first and foremost, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Elliot Haralambous. I'm based usually in Amsterdam, which is the head office of Backbase, and my role is a global ecosystem director. So effectively what I'm responsible for is making sure that Backbase becomes the preferred engagement banking platform for our partners, our customers, and banks across the world. And effectively what that really means is making sure that we have the right strategy and execution where we can actually help the millions of people out there who don't have the right experiences when it comes to banking, and making sure that we have an end-to-end stack that's effective when we go to market. So Brian, I think Microsoft plays a huge part of that role, and we're really looking forward to getting under that today. And I think one of your questions, Brian, was what's something that's not on my LinkedIn profile? Well, apart from the fact that I probably travel a little bit too much, I do really enjoy restoring classic cars.
Oh,
so particularly 1970s, 1980s English and German cars are absolutely my favorites.
I love it, Elliot. Gosh, that's a new one I've never heard before. So when you think about your favorite one, either British or German, I think it was British and German. What is your favorite?
I think my favorite car is my 1974 2002. Fantastic car. It's like a go-kart on wheels. Lots of fun.
Oh, I love it, and I'm sure it's a proper manual. I'm sure it's a manual stick. Is it a manual stick?
I think automatic cars weren't exactly up to scratch back then, but it's still a bit of fun.
I love it. Well, I'll have to go offline with you and see some of the pictures you might have shared. So one of the things that you talked about it in your introduction, but gosh, Backbase is such a strong partner to Microsoft because of and you hit it spot on, financial services banking. That is your sweet spot. That's all you do. I mean, you do a lot of things in that space, but the industry you focus on is banking and financial services. So talk about, to the audience listening, what are the things that Backbase really does when you think about digital transformation, better business outcomes across the ecosystem as it relates to commercial banking, wealth management, retail banking? There's so many scenarios in banking that you have a role to play in. What are some of those customer outcomes that and things you solve together with us that really addresses challenges that companies are seeing in the financial services space?
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate that. So I think it's really important to start at what we think the view is of banking today, right? And we really truly believe that traditional banking will not survive where we are today. We live in a world where platforms are dominating, from how you order your food, how you do your shopping, how you basically maintain every aspect of your online life. Well, banking is no different. So over the last 10, 15, 20 years, we've seen increasing amounts of legacy applications, silos in the way that you engage with a bank, having disrupted experiences or disjointed experiences, should I say, when you might want to apply for a credit card or a mortgage or do self-service banking or speak to your broker. And we think, the old school way of transforming from, the core up is finished. And I think in order for banks to stay competitive with customer appetites and customer habits, banks need to become customer-centric and basically re-architect around the customer. And really what that means, it's basically about having one platform that orchestrates all your customer interactions and creates ecosystems of financial services and will allow banks to be in pole positions to face these challenges on behalf of their clients. That's where Backbase comes in. We are the market-leading or category-leading engagement banking platform. So effectively, we orchestrate, organize, and enhance the experiences for a customer or employee and how they interact with the back. And then we are basically the spider web for the ecosystem that comes from other fintech players, core players, open banking ecosystem, so that as a customer or employee, when you engage with the bank, you have those moments that matter in heart. Now, I think that's incredibly important when we think about who we partner with in the market. And like you said, Brian, Microsoft is a huge partner, us both from a Azure or cloud perspective and a business apps or Dynamics perspective, because it's about maximizing the bank's return on investment on their existing investments, but also providing those next generation experiences that a consumer expects, whether that be a retail consumer, a wealth consumer, or a business bank consumer. We orchestrate that with one unified platform.
Gosh, well said, Elliot. And I think it's apropos because your name, Backbase, is really kind of the emphasis of pulling all these things together. Because for those of you, and I won't claim to say I'm a financial services industry expert, but I can imagine how complex financial services organizations have because of all the environments that have to get pulled together to do simple things like, well, how do you issue a credit card? How do you open up a banking checking account? How do you know someone's creditworthy? To even how do you start a process for like mortgage lending or doing stuff like that? And I think you hit it so well, Elliot, is all those scenarios you're putting together. So maybe before I get to the next question, talk about like what's a highlight of a scenario across either like when you think about when people get started, because you can cover wealth or retail or commercial banking, what are some of the things that you have seen that are kind of critical pain points for, let's say we could have someone from banking and listening to this conversation. What's some of the things that you have found and seen that's always been a pain point to make sure that banks stay relevant? Because it's very competitive. And we know that the ones that will grow and continue to be successful, the ones that create amazing customer experiences, which Backbase enables.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks, Brian. So I think I'll boil it down to two very, very critical pain points. And the first one is when it comes to the expectations of how customers want to work with their digital life, they want to be assisted in all those life moments. Help me save, help me transact, help me connect. That's no different whether you're working with a bank or an e-commerce organization or whatever it might be. But unfortunately, what we've seen across the world, whether that be the Americas, whether that be APJ or in EMEA, banks just haven't been able to keep up with the pace of innovation that other technology organizations have. So when we're talking about banks trying to transform and give that next generation customer experience, well, if they start falling over, that's now how you see the rise of the neobanks, because they're digital within their DNA. Using Backbase, your larger traditional bank that you may have grown up with your mum and dad can now give the same experiences of the neobank that was launched 2 or 3 months ago. For us, that's next generation. Now, for the next perspective, when we talk about something more technical, one of the biggest challenges that we see in the market today is how do customers effectively and frictionlessly are able to onboard. Now, whether that be a new product, whether that be a new offering, whether that be actually becoming a new customer. Now, with Backbase, we can drop what's traditionally seen as a 20 or 30 step process that can take 20 days down to less than 8 minutes or 8 steps even. Now, that changes and differs per region, but ultimately, if you think about where your bank is today, can you afford to not have a frictionless onboarding experience? And if your customers are getting frustrated, where they're going to go next?
That's right.
Because ultimately, we see in very exceptional cases only, people are willing to go to the branches less and less every year. So if you can't give them an experience onboarding that is similar to the way that they might, log into Netflix. Well, you might be in trouble.
Yeah, that's so well said, Elliot. Because you think about the innovation. The one thing that was so transformational, at least for me, was when banks, my specific bank, went to an opportunity where the annoyance of you got to check, and it's interesting because I don't write checks anymore, but occasionally you do get that one check, and you go, "What am I going to do with this thing?"
Correct.
And normally you would have to go, let me go to the bank and go to a teller and have to check in. And then, of course, they made it easier to where you could go to the ATM and do a deposit. Mm-hmm. And then even better, imagine taking out your phone, taking a picture of it, and then you don't have to do it. You just throw away the check and it's already. That's exactly what you said, Elliot. It's like that transformation has occurred in banking and that frictionless effort. And it's amazing to see how Backbase is transforming the industry that way.
And we're incredibly excited too, right? Because and probably the reason why we're here with the Microsoft organization is re-architecting banking around the customer isn't about just dropping a new app in or making a nice front-end experience. It's really about having that connection from your systems engagement, your business applications, all the way down to cloud stack. And then when you have this cohesive ecosystem and bring all those pieces together is how you can basically dominate over the next 5 or 10 years within banking. Now, from our perspective, we see ourselves as the leader of engagement banking, a single platform vision, whether that's wealth, business, or retail banking. The strength that we see work with Microsoft is, well, what happens when you include that with a really robust business applications ecosystem that's pre-integrated with your engagement banking layer, and then run by market-leading cloud AI, and those transformative technologies which basically bring scale. If there's anyone in this call today or this LinkedIn, this ISV Connect Live, reach out because we really are solving some of the biggest challenges within banking, and we'd love to hear from you. So just hit me up on LinkedIn, hit up Brian. We're more than happy to chat.
Yeah, I love it, Elliot, because you hit it spot on. Is that ability to scale at a moment's notice? Because banking, we all know, it's like you have to be not only scaled because you never know holidays or some promotion. All of a sudden, whoop, you get hundreds or thousands, millions of people hitting your processes. Can you scale that way? As well as secure, but also global in nature, being able, like Backbase, Microsoft as well. What regions and making sure is your data secure? Is your data available? Is your data able to scale that way within your business process? So that's a good segue into the next question, which is, what's the experience been like being part of the Microsoft ecosystem? Because of course, Backbase is not managed in our specific team's portfolio, but now that you're doing stuff with BizApps, of course, that's how my team and we got involved. But of course, you started with Azure, which is a normal process. But talk about the experience of just being part of the Microsoft ecosystem from your Alliance leader perspective, Elliot.
Yeah, sure thing, Brian. So I think it's really important to note that we view the opportunity in the market not just about whether that be Dynamics or whether that be Azure. We see the opportunity in the market is, how do you enact banking transformation in the cloud? And the cloud might be AI, it might be cloud, it might be CRM, it might be ERP. But ultimately, the way that we found working with Microsoft is you have a whole bunch of folks out there who have been in the enterprise space for 15, 20, 25 years. That's a competitive aspect that we have really valued over our time working with you folks. And also that's why we've doubled down in terms of our partnership, because ultimately speaking, Microsoft is known to be a partner-centric organization. Now, if you leverage the fact that with the people in the field are very specific within the industry and working with ISVs like Backbase, we view ourselves as the market leader, but we are a very, very well and high-performing Dutch scale-up or startup, even with a startup mentality. But working with the conjunction of a behemoth of Microsoft really shows that we can get the scale of an organization with Microsoft with their specific banking expertise of Backbase. I mean, that's a huge value proposition for us, and we will continue to double down with that, because often, I think as we bring those partner-to-partner motions, so there's people in this call today who are in the GSI world, in the consulting space, in the advisory space, the other fintechs. Well, it's not just a two-party proposition here. It's a multi-party proposition, and we can only really break through on this big, hairy ambition of ours to re-architect banking on the customer with all you folks working together with us. So please reach out.
Yeah, no, thanks, Ellie. And yeah, that's one of the things, is that we could drive things to scale, to your point of the partner focus, and we win with partners. but the ability for Backbase to get exposed to, and again, that's a shout out to any of the connections that I'm connected to and who do Dynamics deployments of financial services, take Elliot up on his offer, because I think there's such an opportunity if you're doing deployments of business applications, CRM or traditional ERP. Definitely, if you haven't engaged Backbase before, there's a huge opportunity to kind of collaborate and build those things together. So that brings us to another great question, and maybe and you touched upon this, Elliot, is like, what are the outcomes that we solve together with end customers? I mean, you talked about a few in those conversations, but the introduction of the financial services cloud, which was one of those amazing scenarios where Backbase is one of our key ISVs that got launched with FSI Cloud. Talk about some of the scenarios of the joint customers that we've kind of, the scenarios we've helped to solve together now that we're live on FSI Cloud and those capabilities you described. I mean, maybe go a little bit deeper on what are the things that you're, again, seeing in your experiences.
Yeah, sure thing. So Brian, I think the key piece here is what differentiates our relationship and this whole concept of re-architecting banking around the customer is, we are only banking specific. We work in wealth, we work in retail, we work in corporate. And the challenges that we see across banks are global. So we've had extensive success around APJ with building net new neobanks. How can we connect our stack with your stack and a few other really premier partners and build net new neobanks in 6, 9, or 12 months from the ground up? Then you think about some of the largest banks in EMEA or in Europe. Well, how do they double down on the investments they've made over the last 15 to 20 years in Microsoft, but get that leading engagement banking capability from Backbase? And then you think about the Americas. I mean, what an interesting space we have with hundreds of community banks across the USA, where they need an ability to compete against the top end of the market. Well, they can build it, or they can embrace a platform future with both of us and get to market fast. And for us, that's all about the value proposition of the cloud financial services, which is unburdening your technology debt and delivering value to your customers, and ultimately putting yourself in a position where you can only have to worry about delivering the differentiated capabilities your clients want, and don't worry about the table stakes, because they're not going to get you more customers and not going to retain your customers. And that's what it's all about. Now let's think about, we're talking about when we work together about some metrics, right? Mm-hmm. So, what we've seen with our shared customer wins, 30% lower customer acquisition costs for banking customers, 4 times the share of wallet, 10 times improved customer retention. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that this is a real impact to your bank's bottom line. Yeah. And the world is littered by the challenge of saying, well, we might build it ourselves. Well, unfortunately, it might take a while, right? And can you afford to wait? So we really look forward to working closely together with the Microsoft ecosystem. And it's really about everyone on this call today thinking to themselves, how do I get what my customers want today, tomorrow, not in 6 months, 12 months, or 2 years' time?
Yeah, you're spot on, Elliot. It's that traditional question that a lot of people try to answer, and it's hard, is the build versus buy. And the challenge when you try to build something, granted, you could have the expertise, everything about it, and you can really customize all the things you need to go do, but you hit it spot on. How long does it take to go do that? And then when you get to the other side, one of the things I've always observed, not just in financial services and other places, that when you get to the other side, everything's changed. And then now you have to go to the drawing board going, how do you take that? And is it scalable to where you can build upon it and make sure that the innovation, and you touch on AI or other technology, how do you do that to keep up so that it's modular to where it can scale with you? Not you're like, oh my gosh, now I have to redo the entire thing from scratch because our business or in the environment or COVID, something happens that creates to that. So any comments on that?
Yeah, really happy to hear all those comments rolling in. But I mean, the best analogy that I could use is think about some of the largest retailers in the world. I'm not going to name names, but we all know some of the big ones. Huge online presences, ability to execute, ability to ship out and deliver any product. Now think of the tens of thousands of small business operators who use a platform like Shopify. Yeah, they share the cost, they share the innovation effort, and ultimately they have an experience which is on par with any other retailer globally. Do you think a mom and dad shop could have done it themselves? Absolutely. They could have built something, but to the skill and platform, that's something that's shared across thousands. it's where we're going as a global organization. Platforms are eating the world. I mean, we all know that.
Well said. I love that example in the retail space, because we all think about, like, who do you shop with now? Like, to your point, I won't name names, but the experience, like, now it's like you can look at the inventory and go, oh, I can either have it shipped to me or go to the store and not actually have to go in the store. You could actually have it brought to your car and put in your trunk. That type of innovation, granted, that accelerated. People were doing that, but that really accelerated with just the environment we're in. So last question, Elliot, and this has been an amazing discussion. How do people learn more? I mean, all these great things you've been talking about, like what are the next steps and things that if you're a customer listening or potential buyer, you're listening to this going, this is interesting. What would I do? If I'm a partner, maybe what I do. And then, of course, if you're a Microsoft employee, you're thinking, oh my gosh, my own end customer and financial services I could sell to. What are some of the things you can talk about as good next steps for people to take?
Sure thing. So I'm really keen to hear from all those in the audience today. First and foremost, if you're a GSI or a consultant, or you go to market with implementation services, please reach out to us, because we're always looking for next generation organizations who can work with us that kind of make an impact at our partners and our customers. Secondly, if you are a leading ISV, or you're a fintech organization who wants to be part of that journey of re-architecting banking around the customer, please reach out to me or those within Backbase, because we're always looking to extend our capabilities with our premier partners. And thirdly, if you're a Microsoft employee, if you're thinking to yourself, this is a really good value proposition for me with my customers, how can I extend Dynamics? How can I work with Azure? How can I push banking to the cloud? Go to backbase.com, look at our announcement, reach out to click the link there. And most importantly, reach out to us at Backbase, because we are always happy to assist. And Brian, I think as we continue to work together, I think these forums are fantastic. I would love to hear those in the audience, whether you're in Malaysia, Canada, or Ghana. Reach out to us. We have a fantastic way to work together, and I really hope we can make an impact together.
I love it, Elliot. Well said. And again, team, feel free to use the LinkedIn platform, either connect with either of us or both of us, but also utilize in the comments, like mention one of us in the comments, and we'll apply back and engage and provide more commentary or insight. And utilize aka.ms/Backbase, because that is a great landing site for any other constituents just to learn more about the Microsoft Backbase relationship that we are jointly going together in the financial services space. So one of the things at the end before we wrap up, just stay for the next kind of 50 seconds or so. Elliot and the Backbase team provided me a great video that provides additional commentary and context in a insightful way that gives you, again, more information and insight as to what are some of the things Backbase can do to impact your business. So Elliot, any last minute words and commentary before we transition to the video and sign off?
Yeah, I think just the final word is we thank you for your continued support from the Microsoft organization, but I think we have a unique proposition here where we can go out to market and we can really give customers what they want and give that differentiated experience. And ultimately, we have to start with why. And the reason why we're doing this is people want to interact more meaningfully with their banks. And hopefully those in the call, please reach out and we can do this together.
Sounds good, Elliot. Well, thank you again for making the time, especially as you're traveling in the down under. I'm a little jealous because the weather probably is much better because it's summertime there. So, and I can see the sun shining through where you're sitting. So thank you again for the time. And thank you, Backbase, for the investment. And we'll talk soon, everybody. So enjoy this quick video. Thanks.
Banks and credit unions have a problem. Their outdated technology can't keep up. Not with the engaging experiences of big tech and challenger banks, or the speed of new fintech services. And especially not with growing customer expectations. So financial institutions can either lose their customers to better digital players, or they can upgrade. And that's where we come in. The Backbase Engagement Banking Platform is the evolution of the digital banking experience. With the power of one platform, you can start small, then grow big across all channels and business lines. You can increase conversions during onboarding and product applications, deepen customer loyalty and engagement, Partner with the finest fintechs. And above all, improve life for customers. And also employees. With turnkey apps plus accelerators to build your own, the platform can be tailored to the unique needs of any sized bank or credit union, like the hundreds around the world that we're powering today. This only scratches the surface of what Backbase can do for you. To learn more or speak to us, visit backbase.com.